And we spoke earlier today with the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul from Tel Aviv. I know you're wrapping up what has been a pretty quick and busy trip to Israel. You met with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Did you get a sense that his government is close to wrapping up this military operation?
No, I don't think so. I think it's, the airstrikes. I think the ground game is just now starting. And I will say, Margaret, when we walked in, the first thing we saw was the horrific Hamas video showing the gruesome killings of these barbaric terrorists. And it was a very intense, kind of powerful moment. The Prime Minister was in tears, really teary-eyed about what happened. And remember, this is sort of like their 9/11, and they want to eliminate the threat, as they should. And I think we talked a lot about the ground game, operations, humanitarian, and we also met with the Minister of Defense as well.
Mm-hmm. And you just raised humanitarian aid. I know the U.S. is the largest donor to the UN relief agency that operates inside of Gaza. Many in the Republican caucus do not support any aid going to them or to Palestinians, even Palestinian civilians living in Gaza. Do you believe that the aid package going through Congress needs to include this kind of help?
Well, I do, and I think the Israelis do as well. I think, I talked about this with the Prime Minister. They have put a buffer zone in the middle of Gaza to create this humanitarian zone in southern Gaza. They opened up the Rafah Gate, that's Egypt. About 100 trucks a day are coming in, but it has to be like food, water, and medicine. It can't be fuel, because Hamas can use that to light their tunnels and operate them.
There are still roughly 400 Americans stuck inside of Gaza, according to the State Department. Did you get any update on how they're doing?
We did, in very sensitive negotiations with the Qataris. They're kind of the lead broker, if you will, of this negotiation. I'm meeting right after this interview with a bunch of families of the hostages, and I met with them in the United States. Very dicey issue. And I think what Hamas wants would be a swap of prisoners in Israel, Palestinians, in exchange for these hostages, both Americans and Palestinians in the Gaza. That's an ongoing thing. I hope it can happen. A ceasefire would be very difficult without an agreement to release all hostages.
To be clear, are the Palestinian Americans who are trapped in Gaza being included in that hostage negotiation? Is that what you're saying as well?
No, this is okay. I'm sorry. It's the Palestinians in prison in Israel that are being negotiated in exchange for prisoners of both Israelis and Americans held captive in Gaza.
Understood. So that Hamas proposal is being entertained. Interesting to know that. I want to ask you about what Congress can deliver in terms of aid to Israel. Do you think that the new Speaker of the House has the clout necessary with your caucus to move through a package that includes Israel aid, Ukraine aid, and other national security items?
Our aid to Israel is urgent and time is of the essence. We have to deliver this package. Now, I know that we have offsets, and that's fair, but I don't think we can play political games with this to support our ally, because, if they fail and we fail, it would have a very bad effect across the Middle East. Into Ukraine, that's vitally important as well. Mm-hmm. So is Taiwan, and so is the last line of defense, the southern border. So really, if you think about it, all these threats are really tied together. Now, whether we handle it all together or separately with, say, Ukraine and border security, all that has yet to be figured out. The stage two, if you will, CR that the Speaker is trying to implement I think we'll actually move the process forward.
Well, that deadline in terms of government funding is next week, November 17th. Yesterday, the speaker made this proposal. It's kind of an unusual way to do it, called a laddered short-term funding deal. The White House says it's just not serious and it's a waste of time. Are we going to see a government shutdown?
Well, you know, we have the power of the purse, and look, we need more time. The CRs always hurt the military, always hurt our national security. And so the first CR until January could resolve the last four appropriations bills that we can't pass to date. So we could pass those and then have until February to negotiate with the Senate to get this done and put it on the president's
Right, but
desk.
first you need the votes to actually pass
time.
this. So can Republicans vote together to pass this proposal, this short-term funding agreement?
We're going to have to. I mean, there's no choice here. I mean, the world is on fire from where I sit. It is too, urgent. We can't sit back and do nothing. And talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu, they needed this yesterday, in his words. Ukraine needed it yesterday. The border, for certainly, needed it yesterday. And we know that Chairman Xi is threatening Taiwan and the Pacific.
Yeah.
So, I think what the Senate's going to do, they're going to come up with a package probably after Thanksgiving that they will send over to the House.
Right. And we'll see if that government funding proposal can get passed by next week to avoid that shutdown. Congressman, thank you for joining us from Israel this morning.